What's going on YouTube? I am Darren, the Bowtie Fragrance Guy, the fashion and fragrance channel. So if you're into one or both of those things, I hope you guys won't mind hitting the subscribe button. And if you do that, make sure you don't forget to hit the bell icon as well. That way you get notified when new content is uploaded on this channel. On today's video, I'm going to be jumping into 10 fragrances, designer fragrances that is, in my collection that I feel are very much underrated, not appreciated. I mean, whatever word you can think of that would describe a fragrance that does not get the amount of attention that I really feel like these fragrances rightfully deserve. Now, when you hear the word hyped, fragrances that are hyped, I don't necessarily think of fragrances that are being pushed arbitrarily, that don't have merit to them. That, in other words, fragrances that aren't good and people just want to make it into something that it's not. But a lot of times, of course, when a fragrance comes out, if it is really good, a lot of times people want to just be one of the first ones to talk about it, and everyone wants to get their 2 cents in about said fragrances. Take fragrances, of course, like Dior Sauvage or maybe Bleu de Chanel, which of course people talk about a lot, and rightfully so, they're good. But there are other fragrances in my collection that are really good as well, but for one reason or another, people just don't really gravitate to a grasp on these fragrances and talk about them like some of the aforementioned fragrances that I just talked about. So I'm going to be getting into 10 in my collection that I think kind of fly under the radar, but they are really good fragrances. So these are unhyped fragrances, if that's a word. So if you want to see what's on the list, then you guys know the routine. Keep it locked right here. Let's get it.
The Bowtie Fragrance Guy.
All right, guys, we're back. Thank you so much for keeping it locked in. I'm going to jump right into this video. Now, this first fragrance is one that I actually found in one of the rack stores. And I was surprised when I saw it in there. I've been eyeing it for quite some time. And I didn't want to purchase it for full retail, I'll be honest, because of its predecessor. But let's go ahead and show you the bottle. This is from the house of Dolce & Gabbana, and this is Dolce & Gabbana K or King. And this is the EDP concentration of that fragrance. Now, I did smell the EDT and it was okay, but it wasn't something that I wanted to grab a full bottle of. And I saw the EDP again when I went into the rack store, and that was a welcome sight to my eyes because it was something different from the usual suspects. And so I decided to grab it. I paid 65 bucks for it, which I thought was a good deal for this fragrance. And I'm really happy with the purchase because this is really good to me. I love the note of fig in fragrances because, again, fig gives this creamy, almost milky vibe to fragrances, and I really, really like that. It's sweet. It has some lavender in here as well, so it kind of has this gentlemanly fougere kind of quality to it in the heart. And on the dry down, you mostly get cedar wood, dry woods. But this is a nice, really, really nice scent for what it is. And I almost didn't experience this because, again, the EDT wasn't quite full bottle worthy to me, but this one was, and I'm glad I found it at a discounted price. I think this one is really, really underrated in my opinion. So check it out. This is from the house of Dolce & Gabbana, and this is Dolce & Gabbana King or K, and this is the EDP concentration. All right, guys, the next fragrance that I want to talk about actually comes from the house of YSL, and this is L'Homme Les Parfums. L'Homme Les Parfums. Now, this fragrance was released in the year of 2020. Of course, we know what was transpiring in the world this time when this came out. So I've always felt like maybe that contributed to this fragrance not really getting talked about. But when I think about it, even the latest releases from the La Nuit de L'Homme lineage of fragrances, as well as this one, for whatever reason, people aren't really talking about it that much. But this one was an absolute dynamite fragrance. I've talked about it a lot. It's going to remind you of the original L'Homme fragrance, but this one has this kind of blue, slightly ozonic kind of airy feel to it, but it's really good. I've talked about it before. This is one of those fragrances for me that get a lot of hype, a lot of compliments when I wear this fragrance, and I really feel like this one is, of course, unhyped. Nobody really talks about it. Where's the hype on this thing? I don't know, but I think it's really good. and you should check it out. It's from the house of YSL, and this is L'Homme Le Parfum. All right, guys, this next fragrance that I want to talk about comes from the house of Prada, and this fragrance is called Prada Amber Pour Homme Intense. Prada Amber Pour Homme Intense. Now, this particular scent is probably going to be like a lot of other fragrances that I'm going to mention on this list today, and they are kind of a victim of the success of maybe its predecessor. And I think that could be the case with this fragrance. The original Prada Amber Pour Homme is a fragrance that a lot of people talk about. They talk about how nice and soapy and clean it is, and it is really good. Obviously, not taking anything away from the hype that fragrance got, because it deserves it. But this one deserves just as much hype, in my opinion. And this is the Pour Homme Intense version. Man, this, of course, is centered around amber, but it has so many great facets and qualities to it, man. This is one of those fragrances, definitely a hidden gem. Nobody talks about this fragrance, and they should talk about it, because in my opinion, it's really good. It's a darker, of course, fragrance than the original. You would think that from an intense version. I mean, even look at the bottle. You know, you have this kind of dark, it looks black, but you can actually see through it. It's transparent, but it looks, give that black impression. It's a darker fragrance. Leather, tonka bean, amber, patchouli in this, vanilla. This is an amazing fragrance, guys. And again, I just think that more people need to talk about this one, because it's really good. So check it out. It's still out there on the market. You can find this stuff from the house of Prada. This is Prada Amber Pour Homme Intense. All right, guys, the next fragrance that I want to talk about actually comes from the house of Valentino, and this is the original Valentino Uomo. Valentino Uomo. Now, of course, you guys, we hear a lot about the Valentino Uomo Intense, and again, rightfully so, the fragrance is amazing, but this is, of course, the initial original release from the Valentino Uomo line, and this one, to me, gets overshadowed by the Valentino Uomo Intense. So we kind of went in the inverse order this time. But at the end of the day, man, this fragrance is so good. I never forget, this is one of those fragrances that I couldn't wait to get my hands on. I read the notes and I smelled it in the store. I had to wait a little while to pick it up, but it has this coffee in here. Here it's creamy as well. And again, it's just an amazing fragrance. And again, fortunately, unfortunately, depends on how you want to look at it, it gets, oh man, this is so good. It gets overshadowed by Valentino Uomo Intense. But this one is just as good, in my humble opinion. Just check it out, guys. Again, this is the original one from the house of Valentino. This is Valentino Uomo. All right, guys, this next fragrance actually comes from the house of Giorgio Armani, and this is Acqua di Gio Absolute. Acqua di Gio Absolute. Now, I believe, and I could be wrong, but I believe that this fragrance gets overshadowed by all the other flankers from this particular range, because maybe the bottle didn't quite line up with the fragrance. Now, when you see a bottle like this, it's a really kind of classy fragrance. I would think you would probably get more of a, I don't know, maybe a Fougere or maybe a Chypre or something like that. When you look at this bottle, because it has this nice wooden cap, maybe that threw people off, or maybe it didn't smell anything like the original. Could be a lot of reasons for this, but man, if you're just looking for something that's really dope and gets a lot of compliments, this is a nice fragrance, and I really think it never really got the attention that it was properly due. It's nice and fruity up top, so you get a nice fruitiness from it, but you also get some labdanum in here as well, and patchouli. It's a dope fragrance, man. Again, one of those really nice, mass appealing, easy to wear scents, but I do think it is better than the attention that it has received. So check it out from the house of Giorgio Armani. This is Giorgio Armani's Acqua di Gio Absolute. All right, guys. Now, this fragrance has never gotten the hype that it deserves, except from me. So I do want to mention it on this list. This fragrance is from the house of Christian Dior, and this is Dior Homme Sport, and this is a 2012 version of this fragrance. Again, I've talked about it a lot, so I won't go as much into it, but this one still has iris in it. So it has the iris, but they did manage to give this a cleaner feel to this fragrance when you compare it to Dior Homme Intense and Dior Homme Parfum, even the original Dior Homme, because it has ginger up top. So that ginger is really vibrant. It really, gets you going, and I love that about the note of ginger. And there's a lot of it in the opening of this fragrance, and it just really works well with the iris. Now, a lot of the newer formulations of this fragrance. They took the iris out. In my opinion, that was a big mistake because that combination is what makes this fragrance so unique. One of the best fragrances in the world. So check it out, guys, from the house of Christian Dior. This is Dior Homme Sport 2012. All right, guys, the next fragrance on this list actually comes from the house of Dolce & Gabbana, and this is Dolce & Gabbana The One Gentleman. First of all, I love this bottle. I have always loved this bottle, man. I think the ad campaign for this fragrance back in 2010 featured Matthew McConaughey. It's a very gentlemanly scent. And I do pick up the original Dolce & Gabbana The One in this fragrance, but this has a more kind of a gentlemanly fougere kind of quality to it. And that's because of the addition of two notes here, which is lavender and pepper. So it's a lot more spicy than the original Dolce & Gabbana. And again, that lavender brings this kind of clean, fresh, gentlemanly quality to the Dolce & Gabbana The One DNA. And I'm gonna tell you guys now, this is a really standout scent, but not a lot of people talk about it. It could be because it was released now 12 years ago. I don't know. But whatever it is, this is really, really underrated and not a hyped fragrance. So check it out. It's from the house of Dolce & Gabbana. This is The One Gentleman. All right, guys, this next fragrance is one I mentioned before, so I won't go as much into it, but it's from the house of Burberry, and this is Burberry Brit Rhythm. Burberry Brit Rhythm, and I've talked a lot about this fragrance, man, and I talked about why I believe it's so good. There were 4 master perfumers that combined to create this scent, and it's just highly underrated. It's probably just because it's Burberry. But guys, check it out when you get a chance. Again, I've mentioned it before, and I think this is one that you guys will be well served to check it out for yourself. From the house of Burberry, this is Burberry Brit Rhythm. All right, guys, this fragrance actually released this year, and again, I didn't really hear anybody talk about it. People should be talking about this fragrance. It's from the house of Gucci. This is Gucci Guilty, and this is the Parfum version. Now, it could be, a lot of people may get this confused. This looks a lot like the bottle for the original, and then there was actually an EDP concentration that was released in the year of 2020 as well, but this one is brand new. This is the Parfum concentration, and this thing is really, really dynamite. Should there be some hype behind this fragrance based on the way it smells? In my opinion, it should. This has a very beautiful combination of patchouli and labdanum in this scent. It's one that you really have to put your nose on. So check it out, guys. Again, it's from the house of Gucci, and this is Gucci Guilty, and this is the Parfum concentration released this year, 2022. And last but not least on this list, one of my most beloved hidden gem fragrances in my collection that people just disrespect. I don't know why, but my God, this thing smells good. It's from the house of Prada, and this is Prada Luna Rossa Sport. Prada Luna Rossa Sport. I love this fragrance. I love the bottle. I love the hints of red. I just love this fragrance. This is one of my favorite, easy to wear, grab and go, mass appealing, anytime, any place kind of fragrances. It's nice and powdery and sweet, and it's fruity as well, but it smells absolutely amazing. I know some people kind of dismiss the scent because it doesn't have the best performance. You only get about 45 hours out of it. But for me, I have a lot of fragrances. I don't mind. If I need to reapply, I just take it with me. And of course, I will reapply it. But it's an amazing fragrance. This fragrance deserves to be hyped. And daggone it, I'm starting it right now. But check it out, guys. It's from the house of Prada. This is Prada Luna Rossa Sport. But that is it, guys. That's my time, man. I hope you enjoyed this video today as I gave you 10 fragrances from my collection. Designer fragrances, that is, that don't get the hype that I really feel like they deserve. But as always, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. So don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And make sure you're sharing these videos out to some other folks out there that you think may be able to use this information or find it entertaining. Because I'm your guy, Darren. I'm the Bowtie Fragrance Guy. I love to look good. And of course, I love to smell amazing. So until next time, guys, keep looking good. Keep smelling even better. I'll catch you on the flip side.